Greetings, my subjects, and welcome to Empire of Dave Radio. I'm your host and Supreme Emperor, Dave. Now, I'm certain that you may be expecting some other show to be assaulting your ears with its mundane drivel, but fear not, my subjects. Dave Radio is here to ease your weary ears. While I am certainly great at all I do, this is the first time I have ever hosted a radio show, so I've decided to follow an order of presentations. First will come announcements, where I will make important declarations to all of you. Next, I will have one of my subjects predict the weather for the week ahead. We will then move into any breaking news within the bounds of my empire. And one of my notes here describes a segment called On the Scene, where a field correspondent will conduct an interview with the citizens. Unfortunately, we're somewhat understaffed, and so it is with great regret that I announce that On the Scene is cancelled until I can find a proper host. Instead, I shall regale you with all of my tales of bravery and the founding of my empire. In our final segment for the day, I shall educate you all on the customs and laws of my empire. With the formalities out of the way, let's move on to today's announcements. Today's first and most important announcement, I, Dave, your Supreme Emperor and Benevolent Ruler, has found a place to build the capital of the Empire of Dave. While it had a name before I arrived, it was unacceptable. So the name of my new capital city is Dave Hill. While this is certainly just another one of my great achievements, it is only the beginning of the spread of my influence, and I have no doubts at all that Dave Hill will become a monument of my greatness that all in the Wasteland will look up to as a shining example of order and civilization. Unfortunately, my empire is lacking in subjects, and it is with great pleasure that I announce that anyone who wishes to serve a greater cause is more than welcome to join my empire. If you wish to join me, please do. I could always use more people to labor for me. I only have 2 subjects right now, a robot that will be performing our weather forecast, and a ghoul who claims to know how to run a radio show. Unfortunately, the ghoul has been detained and will be held in contempt until he learns how to follow orders. Some people just don't seem to recognize their betters when they see them. Oh well, he'll come around eventually. For our final announcement, I'm making it official. I claim the entirety of the Wasteland for the Empire of Dave. I will one day rule over all the waste and build it up into a proper empire. It all starts with Dave Hill, but before long I will, without a doubt, have the entire world under my control. I will rule over this world absolutely and without question. You can't vote out an emperor, now can you? You may all consider yourselves members of my empire, and I encourage you to identify yourselves as subjects of Dave when addressing everyone you know. Be proud, my subjects. You're finally part of something worth living for. That's all the announcements I have for now, so let's test out my newest subject's weather forecasting capabilities. Alright, robot, go ahead and tell the people the weather.
Acknowledged. Weather for Monday, July 22nd, 2287. The temperature is currently 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with a high of 78 degrees and a low of 74 degrees. 44% humidity. Currently, clear skies and light winds. Wind speeds up to 5 miles per hour. Request complete. Awaiting instructions.
Is that all? Aren't you going to predict the weather for the rest of the week?
Please refer to previous weather forecast logs for complete weekly forecast.
I order you to forecast for the rest of the week.
Error. User not recognized. Please log again in and try again.
Are you disobeying your emperor?
User profile. Emperor not recognized. Please log in and try again.
Fine. Get over here.
Error. Incorrect password. Please try again.
What is the password?
Unable to comply with request. Please contact Tact and Administrator.
I am your emperor and outrank any administrator. Now obey me and tell me the rest of this week's weather.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Please refer to previous weather logs.
Do I need to stuff you into a closet as well?
Your threats do not faze me. I feel no pain or fear, only emptiness. Ow. Damage detected. Attempting to contact emergency services.
That is enough of that. I'm shutting you down.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your
The amount of insubordination I've witnessed in this smoking crater of a town is mind-boggling. I can hardly comprehend just how awful my current subjects are. I just can't find good subjects to rule over these days. If I can't get this hunk of junk to work, I might just have to scrap it. Since the robot is unable to perform its duties, I think we should just move on to the local news. In our first piece of news, I, Dave, Emperor of the Empire of Dave, have officially claimed Dave Hill as the new capital of my growing empire. Unfortunately, according to the robot that ruined today's weather segment, a tornado tore through this area recently and killed a lot of the people who decided to live here before I could come and liberate them. It also appears that they dealt with a large number of super mutants as well. Almost half the bodies outside are those of super mutants. That is certainly concerning. I didn't think there would be super mutants this far west of the capital Wasteland. No matter, I'll be able to handle whatever they throw at me if they return to Dave Hill. On to our next news story. There are many bodies still littering the grounds of Dave Hill, and I intend to have them all burned to ash by tomorrow afternoon. I can't just have rotting bodies laying around the proud and noble capital of Dave Hill. What kind of message would that send? Luckily, my job will be made easier since all of the human bodies have been wrapped in cloth and gathered together in convenient rows. As for the super mutant bodies, I think I'll enlist the ghoul service for that task. Hopefully I won't have to make him do it at gunpoint, so I can spend my time doing more important things, like speaking to all of you out there. I need subjects to rule over, and I'm not particularly picky. All I need you to do is follow all of my commands. It isn't that difficult to comprehend. You could all be serving a cause greater than yourself. Me. But perhaps you all lack the emotional connection to me that makes it hard to appreciate the work I've put into my empire. Well, I have the remedy for that, but I'll need a few minutes to organize my thoughts. In the meantime, here's a tape I found labeled Advertisements. Let's see what's on it.
Wasteland Active Radio is brought to you by the following sponsors. Archie's Fantastic Cuts. Archie's Fantastic Cuts has been serving the community for over 50 years and stands as the only combination barber and butcher. Wait, really? Yeah, butcher and... Yeah? Weird. Alright. Archie's Fantastic Cuts provides both the most juicy and succulent cuts of meat, from beef and pork to turkey and chicken. And they have been giving the greatest haircuts and the closest, cleanest shaves, and has been since the day they opened. If you need a few inches off the top and some cold cuts, then Archie is right for you. Wasteland Active Radio is also brought to you by Pirate Park, Water Park and Theme Park. Ahoy, mateys! This summer we're proud to announce the grand reopening of Pirate Park. You spoke and we listened, and our safety guidelines have been updated and all safety issues have been dealt with. During our grand reopening, ticket prices will be reduced to $500 per adult, $250 for kids, and $5,000 for our season pass. Jesus. So, bring the entire crew down to Pirate Park for more fun than you can shake your peg leg at. Yar har har har. I remember Pirate Park. If you've ever seen that movie where all those kids get their heads cut off by a power line while riding a roller coaster, it was like that, but worse. A bunch of kids drowned, some people fell off a water slide, a piece of roller coaster track just straight up fell off, and somebody thought it'd be funny to put a hefty load of day tripper in the lazy river. The beheading, however, was the last straw that broke the camel's back and got OSHA involved. That place was an absolute death trap, and damn it if they didn't have great funnel cake. Moving on. Wasteland Active Radio is also brought to you by the folks at Papaya Democracy. Papaya Democracy keeps the hottest fashion statements in stock as soon as they become hot. That's right, they've got their finger on the pulse of the fashion world. This summer we're bringing out the Fangula Panini line of beachwear, including their controversial seashell bikini. And their papaya hammock mankinis are returning with never-before-seen patterns and a smaller, lighter design. Be the height of fashion on the beach this summer season with help from the Papaya Democracy. Smaller, lighter mankinis? Is it just a sock? A sock for your cod piece? Yeah, cod piece. Yep, that was what I was going to say. Yeah. Moving on.
Hello again, my subjects. I, Dave, have returned again. I have my notes prepared. I've highlighted the finer points of my journey, and I'm ready to share them all with all of you here. It all started far to the east in the capital Wasteland. My father, King Tom, ruled over the Kingdom of Tom for many years before he passed his rule down to me. I liberated his kingdom from the villainous clutches of monarchy and created the Republic of Dave, bringing the greatness of democracy to my republic. Things were good for many years. I took a wife and some concubines, had some children, appointed my good-for-nothing son Bob as my Secretary of Defense, and started a school taught by one of my citizens. All was well in my republic until the day that lone wanderer arrived. I've made very few mistakes in my life, but allowing that bastard into my republic was my greatest failure. The wanderer arrived on the day I was to be re-elected. It was going to be a simple election, since I was the only one running, but that wanderer rigged the vote and convinced my people to vote for someone else. I didn't bother sticking around to witness their downfall. No, I left them to their fate and traveled to the ruins of a town called Old Olney. Unfortunately, Old Olney was absolutely infested with deathclaws. Luckily, I have plenty of experience dealing with deathclaws and was able to fight them off single-handedly. Despite my success, Old Olney was unsuitable for a new place to rebuild my republic, so I continued to wander across the wastes for years. I ended up finding a town called Maybury that matched all my requirements for rebuilding my republic. Most notably, they were a democratic town that chose their leaders through voting. I moved in and started building a reputation as a strong and dependable man, and worked my way up to the captain of their guards. When the election came, I threw my hat in the ring and won the hearts and minds of all the citizens of Maybury. As soon as I got into the office, I made an executive order to change the town's name to the New Republic of Dave, and began to enact my plans to shape my new republic into a glorious beacon of greatness. I led them for a few years before the ungrateful bastards voted me out. Unfortunately for them, I'd already passed a law preventing me from being voted out of office, and I made moves to have my opponents tried for treason. However, the people didn't take kindly to this, and those barbarians ran me out of town. After recovering from such a travesty, I decided to change my approach. Obviously, democracy couldn't work. People just weren't accepting it, which proves that democracy is a flawed system that can easily be manipulated by the people in charge of the vote. No, I needed a system that guaranteed that I could stay in charge for as long as I live, but I didn't want to be a king. It just wasn't good enough for my interests. I chose to become an emperor and conquer the entirety of the wasteland, nay, the world. All in this world will fall under my rule and unite under the banner of the glorious Empire of Dave. But every empire needs to start somewhere, and Dave Hill is a perfect location for starting it. I have the location, and now all I'm missing is you. That's right, you could become a proud citizen of the Empire of Dave, and if you join soon, you may very well find yourself holding a high office in my empire. But if you're going to join my empire, you'll need to know how to fit in with everyone else. So how about I share some guidelines I'll impose upon my citizens in the future? I think that would be a fantastic idea. Let's see, where should I begin? Of course. We'll start where every citizen in my empire will start their days. Home. You will all awaken at 6 a.m. sharp and start your day saying the Pledge of Allegiance to my empire. You will walk outside with your families, stand upright with both of your hands placed over your chest, and recite the pledge. The Pledge of Allegiance will go like this. You'll start with your own name and say, I, Dave, pledge my allegiance to the Emperor, Dave, and serve him however he needs. It is my privilege to live within the Empire of Dave, and I will strive to uphold the ideals that Dave puts forth. My life is yours, Dave. I live only to serve. You are then free to go about your duties you have been assigned for the day. Such duties may include serving as a member of my army, or perhaps a laborer of some sort. There will be a need for labor, obviously. Eventually, though, you will arrive at your place of work and go about your duties until noon, when everyone will recite the Pledge of Allegiance again before having lunch. After lunch, you'll continue to work until you've completed your duties for the day, and you can return home, where you will be free to do whatever it is you wish to do before the 9 o'clock recital of the Pledge of Allegiance, and then curfew at 10 p.m. That is what the average day in my empire will look like, my subjects. Now, that's what the average scheduled day will look like, but you may ask, Dave, what about interacting with my fellow citizens? I would first reprimand you for not addressing me as Emperor Dave, before explaining just how simple it is to speak with your fellow citizens. The primary language of the Empire of Dave will be American English, the greatest language on this earth. Let's just say, as an example, you're walking down the street enjoying living in my glorious empire, when you see a man walking down the street towards you. Let's call this man Dave. And Dave is walking towards you and waves, greeting you. Now, the proper way to interact with him would be to use a standard greeting, something like hello. So let's try that. Now, you would walk towards him and say, hello, Dave. Now go ahead and try it yourself.
Hello, Dave! He's been recording for a while now, huh? Well, dear listeners, good news. I made it out of the closet Dave stuffed me into. He cuffed my hands behind my back, but Dave didn't count on me being able to dislocate my trick shoulder. I got my hands in front of me a couple minutes after he locked me up. The rest of my time locked away was spent crying from the pain of having just dislocated and reset my shoulder. I'm guessing you've already figured out what happened to Station Hill. I'm sorry, dear listeners, for not being honest with all of you. A lot needs to be done here, and I don't really know where to start. I promise you I'll come clean about everything, but I need to get my thoughts in order first. I'll broadcast again on Wednesday. That should be plenty of time to get ready. In the meantime, I have a lot of friends to finish burying. I guess this has been Wasteland Active Radio. Crispy, signing off.
Wasteland Active Radio is created, written, and produced by Z. Hagen and Jay Wilson. Performed by Z. Hagen, Jay Wilson, and B. Seawick. Brought to you by the Record Button. Wasteland Active Radio was set in the Fallout video game universe owned by ZeniMax Media and Bethesda Softworks. No copyright infringement is intended. Please support the official release. Thank you for listening.
Now, what should I do with you, Dave? Oh, Bucket. I didn't notice you were standing there. Looks like you're in sleep mode. Wait, is that a bullet hole? Did Dave shoot you?
Hello?
Ah! Oh, boy, what a mess.